If you select these players in your 2025 fantasy football drafts, you might end up regretting it because these guys could honestly be busts in 2025, and we'll tell you why, and we'll give you numbers as to why. Let's start with the Cheetah himself, a guy who has won you fantasy football leagues in the past. But this year, we're looking at a couple of different things. I want to start by using his route running from reception perception here. And let's start in 2022 when he was the 83rd, 90th, and 96th percentile success rates against man, zone, and press coverage. Okay, so that's obviously some very good numbers. 2023, 83rd, 87th, 95th percentiles against those same coverages respectively. Again, very, very good. 2024, 44th, 78th, and 68th.
What the heck happened there?
From an analytical standpoint and from a route running standpoint, typically if you track this stuff, if you consume content like this, what you'll notice is that while it's really hard to predict exactly when a wide receiver is going to like completely fall off a cliff, and we're excited. I mean, Matt Harmon says here in his article is like that you can start to see some decline in wide receivers, especially older wide receivers, based on their route running efficiency. And Tyreek Hill's route running efficiency, this is something typically when you're looking at analytics that even in a bad situation, for example, Chris Olave has very good route running metrics. Even though he's not producing, it's independent of fantasy production, independent of who's throwing him the ball. It's how much is he actually winning on his routes. It would transcend situation or quarterback or things like that. And it's not for Tyreek Hill anymore. And it was pretty noticeable in his fantasy football production too. Obviously, the wide receiver 2 in 2022 and 2023 when he posted those numbers, and then last year he goes to the wide receiver 18. He was targeted 123 times, but that was 50 less times than he had been targeted the 2 years before, right? He had quite a few less receptions as well. He had 119 receptions in 2022 and 2023. It dropped down to 81 receptions. He had almost 40 less receptions in 2024 than the 2 years prior. His yards went down 700. His yards per target went down 3 yards per target. His yards per catch went down 3 or 4 yards. His usage was incredibly different. They lost the over-the-top ability that they had in 2023 and in 2022. On top of this, you have not super great vibes from Tua and the rest of the Dolphins when it's concerning Tyreek. Obviously, Tyreek Hill got arrested and wouldn't roll down his window and whatever. But Tua basically just came out and was like, he's got to earn it back. He's got to earn our trust back. Like he doesn't sound super happy with Tyreek Hill. Obviously, there have been multiple instances in the offseason where Tyreek Hill has all but said he did not want to be on the Dolphins, right? And then Drew Rosenhaus goes on Pat McAfee, and it all changes. And we've seen this maneuver over and over and over and over and over. And it did work to get Tyreek Hill some more money a couple years ago. But with that being said, regardless of all the noise, regardless of the obvious drop-off in production, in usage, in efficiency, his route running tanked last year compared to what it was. He was at an elite of, he's like upper quartile of the upper quartile, Rip Jim Irsay. That's where Tyreek Hill was in terms of NFL wide receivers and route running. And now he's not. He's not. And I do think it's funny that we sit here and we try to predict drop-offs for guys like Derrick Henry and guys like Alvin Kamara and guys like Devontae Adams when there's actually no good evidence that those guys are going to drop off. They produced last year. They obviously have some injury issues. So does Tyreek, by the way. But for the most part, these are guys we're basically just guessing this is the year. Well, for Tyreek Hill, we've actually already seen it. He played 17 games last year. Tua was healthy from weeks 8 to 16 and also the first 2 weeks. So it's not like Tua missed how many games? 6 games last year. Okay, so it's not like Tua missed the whole season. It's not like there wasn't a productive receiving asset, scoring a lot of touchdowns, getting a lot of yards, a lot of receptions, and his name was Jonnu Smith of all people. If you're at the point in your career, and schematically I know there's a little bit more to this, there's more complexity to this situation, but if you're at the point in your career where Jonnu Smith is outproducing you, that's kind of a rough sign. It should never happen. The other thing about the Dolphins offense is Nathan and I both kind of agree, I think people are just kind of figuring it out. We don't think the Dolphins offense is as good as it was. Still going to be explosive, still going to have good numbers from Achane and stuff like that. And obviously, Jonnu Smith leaving will positively impact Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill. But at the same time, there are pretty clear signs that Tyreek Hill is starting to, it was almost always going to be this way with Tyreek Hill because he's a speed demon, right? It's not like he's a crisp route running slot target hungry guy that he just was dominant. He's one of the best wide receivers, if not the best, for many years. And he won with his over the top speed. Nobody could catch him. Those are the type of guys typically from a wide receiver standpoint that just fall off. And look, I'm not even saying, hey, Tyreek Hill's going to fall off this year. I'm saying last year he did fall off. From what his level of expectation was, a top 3 wide receiver perennially, he was not even close to that last year. And so you saw a fall off. essentially we're betting, is he going to return to 2023 levels of production, or is he going to stay where he was in 2024? With the route running data we have, which again is transcendent of quarterback play, things like that, it's just him. With that being a lot worse than it was the year before, I'm not betting on Tyreek Hill this year returning to form. I think he'll be productive, but I do not think he's going to be the Tyreek Hill that we're used to. I think that Tyreek Hill is probably gone, and this is a guy, again, that shows clear regression that we should actually take note of when we're drafting our fantasy football teams.
So, quick devil's advocate question for you.
Okay.
I just want to
devil?
address it for
Fine.
the people
Cool.
because
Nathan
people are
Devil.
going to address it. The broken hand stuff, the argument about it significantly impacting your route running ability and your win rates because of the physicality of going up against DBs. Do you buy that?
I mean, against press coverage, maybe, but I wouldn't imagine that's an issue against zone coverage, right? I mean, man coverage, maybe, but again,
it all depends on like how quickly is the physicality coming off the line of scrimmage, like consistently.
But it does with Tyreek Hill. That's a good point, and maybe you're going to use that and say that's why I think Tyreek Hill is going to produce this year. Totally valid. I'm not saying not to draft him. I'm saying he could be a bust this year. That's what I'm saying, and I think there's data to support it. But if you think it was injury, then go ahead and draft him. That's totally fine. I probably won't be at the third round. I like the running backs there this year. But it's Tyreek Hill. He could win you a league, obviously. Yes, that could be something. However, it is worth noting that Tyreek Hill still has his hand wrapped. So if that was the issue last year,
it's going to be a concern.
Then it's going to be an issue this year.
Potentially, yeah.
So I don't know if it was, but I know it's still lingering.
Yeah.
And so it's just something to keep in mind with Tyreek Hill. Again, one of the best fantasy football players of all time might be falling off. All right, we are so pumped to announce that we have on flockfantasy.com/domain a new option available to you to get our tools just for the season at a super cheap price, but you get literally everything we offer. Our fantasy football rankings, player analytic tools, draft guides, the mock draft, my team's tool. Plus, you get our 2025 DFF algorithm, our brand new draft guide to give you actionable statistical advice for your fantasy football drafts. Plus, if you sign up for the season pass with code DOMAIN, we can get you in a league with Nathan and I as well. We got our live leagues every week live on the channel. So take advantage of the links in the pinned comment, flockfantasy.com/domain. Again, that's the season pass. Come join the community for the season. I think you'll love what we have to offer.
So DJ Moore is expected this season to, I guess, by a lot of people to take a step up. Same with guys like we're big advocates for Rome Odunze. And obviously Ben Johnson coming into that offense and now being the play caller is a significant step up to what they've had for years and years and years. This is projected to be the most productive offense literally of all time, specifically in the passing game, the most productive passing game offense that we've probably ever seen in the history of Chicago Bears football.
I thought you meant ever. I was like, what?
No. For the Bears.
That's a low bar. Okay.
Yeah, it is a very low bar for the Bears. So with DJ Moore, I will say my mind has kind of changed with him heading into this season because I've been of the opinion that he's going to be pretty productive. He's going to be solid. And even though we expect Rome Odunze to take a big step up, DJ Moore can still have a good season. And then I saw his reception perception come out. And he's 28th percentile against man coverage. He's 45th percentile against zone and 65th percentile against press coverage. It doesn't get any better when you're looking at the efficiency that he showcases on a per route, a per target basis with the opportunity that he got last season. He should have been one of the most productive non-elite wide receivers that we had seen in 2024 with this opportunity, and he was not. 1.52 yards per route run with 26.6% target share. That was 13th among wide receivers in the NFL. He was 10th in the league in targets, and his route win rate was 42.6%, 61st among wide receivers. This guy was not winning on a regular basis. He took a significant step back from what we are used to seeing with DJ Moore in less than ideal situations. You had, honestly, even though it was a bad offense last year and Caleb Williams was not that great and needed to get better, he had more talent to deal with at the quarterback situation than he ever has. And he was really getting incredible opportunity. I mean, when you're looking at the targets that he did get last season compared to any other year, he had the second most targets that he's had in his entire career. 140 targets in 2024. The only other time he had that many targets was in 2021 with Carolina, where he also ironically finished as a wide receiver too. DJ Moore this season, I think he's demonstrated. I'm not saying that DJ Moore is a bad wide receiver. What I'm saying is I don't think DJ Moore is the wide receiver one that he's been propped up to be for literally 7 years. And I think it's coming to fruition now because they drafted Rome Odunze for a reason in the top 10 last season. And no, Rome Odunze didn't show the elite level ability that a guy like Malik Neighbors or BTJ or even Marvin Harrison Jr. showed last season. He has a lot of room to grow. Well, one of them's actually showing it this year. And again, we don't want to overblow. We don't want to overhype training camp hype or training camp news. But it does matter when DJ Moore goes 2 straight days without getting a single target, and Rome Odunze is the red zone go-to for Caleb Williams. There are some hints that you can take from the opportunity that these guys get on a daily basis, and DJ Moore is not getting the high upside opportunity in the red zone. It's Rome Odunze. And again, for guys that have been big Rome Odunze truthers and are really projecting a big step up from him this season, he didn't show anything last year to indicate that he's going to absolutely suck this year. There's pretty much only a direction to go up for Rome Odunze, and DJ Moore honestly could go down. I mean, you would expect for a guy who's 28th percentile on man. We've seen guys with really bad efficiency metrics against man coverage still be successful because, hey, their contested catch rate is really good. See George Pickens, right? His contested catch rate was 59th among wide receivers last year, 42%. If he can't win contested catch situations consistently and he can't even beat you in man coverage on the reg, who's to say that he's going to keep this wide receiver 1 role? Think about it. Ask yourself that question, and then come back and tell me why DJ Moore and Rome Odunze are going 3 rounds apart in fantasy right now.
Let's talk about a running back now, and let's pivot to Isaiah Pacheco. And yes, Isaiah Pacheco, I know there's a lot of context here that we need to explore. And I have less of an analytical argument to this one because I feel like I could tell you his analytics from last year and you'd be like, yeah, he sucked. But obviously Isaiah Pacheco the year before that was indeed a running back 1, right? On a per game basis, I think he played 14 games that year. And he was very good for the Chiefs in 2023. I have to say 2023 because, again, in 2024, not super good. But 2023, 205 attempts, 935 yards, 7 touchdowns. He had 49 targets, 44 receptions that year as well. And again, that year, he was the running back 14. So really, truly not ever a running back 1. He was a high-end running back 2. And so with Pacheco, obviously last year he comes out. He had very high expectations last year in the sense that people thought he was going to come out and just absolutely crush it because it's a high-scoring offense. It's the Chiefs. You're playing with Patrick Mahomes. He comes out and he injures himself, right? Breaks his leg. It's a tough injury. We've seen it with running backs before. It takes him a while to recover. So I totally get that. A lot of people are going to say, yeah, he was just injured. He's obviously going to come out and kill it. And if kill it is, 14 points, 14th in points per game, 15 points per game in 2023, then sure, I think that's probably going to make him a good pick at price. The problem is this. The problem is that with Pacheco, when he came back last year, obviously they phased him back in and then they essentially phased him back out for Kareem Hunt. He was outplayed by Kareem Hunt when Kareem Hunt was on the field last year. And part of that is the way that the Chiefs use their running backs. Because the Chiefs, even though they brought Isaiah Pacheco back, even though they had him and they knew that he was going to be fully healthy, the Chiefs, here's what I want to say. If the Chiefs were fully confident in Isaiah Pacheco being their workhorse, every down, red zone, receiving back, then why did the Chiefs in one offseason re-sign Kareem Hunt, sign free agent Elijah Mitchell, and draft Brashard Smith? Why would they do that? Why would they make 3 separate running back moves when they have a running back that they feel very good about? Secret, guys. This is not hard to figure out. Secret. They don't feel that good about him. They don't. They just don't. There's no way you can look at me in the eyes and say, oh, they feel very good about Isaiah Pacheco. No, they don't. Or they wouldn't have done any of this. If they felt comfortable, they'd get him a solid backup, and that's it. The fact of the matter is, the Kareem Hunt is the short yardage guy. He's going to be the short yardage guy most likely. And this is not coming from me. This is coming from a beat reporter in Kansas City who said, actually, they might try to find ways to use all 4 of these guys. Well, it's almost like we've seen the Kansas City Chiefs do that in the past, haven't we? Right? I mean, remember Jerick McKinnon, right? Remember Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and then we had Isaiah Pacheco and Jerick McKinnon all in that offense, right?
And Kareem Hunt, and then Kareem Hunt.
And then Kareem Hunt, and then he was working at McDonald's, and then he came back.
Yeah.
But and this is all hype at this point, and I understand this could lead to nothing. But I don't think it is going to lead to nothing because it's very Chiefs for them to give Brashard Smith a ton of work in training camp. And yeah, it's with the first team. It doesn't really matter what team it's with. He's working at wide receiver some, but he's working as a receiving back. And that should tell you something. At the point where they have Elijah Mitchell and they brought him in on, a decent deal for a guy of his status, and they have Brashard Smith, who they're already utilizing, I'm not saying Pacheco's not the starter, because he probably will be. But is Pacheco going to get a large enough portion of the red zone and receiving touches to be the 15 to 17 points per game guy that everybody thinks he can be? And the answer is no. Now, the reason Pacheco might be able to turn into a good pick this year, if he does end up getting the majority of the red zone usage, he could be a walking touchdown in that Kansas City Chiefs offense. He really could. That's very possible this year. And I would not be surprised if, when it's all said and done, he scores 10-plus touchdowns, he ends up being a very good pick at draft. Because you're getting him in the 7th round of your drafts. And so I think that's a totally fair argument. Now, again, in terms of what the beat writers have said out of Kansas City training camp, they think they're probably going to utilize all 4 of them. Pacheco is, again, the clear favorite to be the starter there, and he could end up being a good pick in the 7th round. But I don't really want to bet on the volatility of the Kansas City Chiefs running back room when in that range, I feel like there are other players that could end up getting more volume than him. Now, again, drafting good players on good offenses is something that you need to focus on. And again, that's one of the biggest reasons to draft Isaiah Pacheco. So I'm not telling you not to draft him. But if the Kansas City Chiefs are consistent with how they've used running backs and committees for now a long time, really before it was popular, then he could end up kind of just being very meh. He might end up being a very weak flex for you. And I think there are other guys in the range of Isaiah Pacheco that could end up being stronger flexes. DeAndre Swift, another guy in an offense going right next to him in ADP that's on a very good offense, a Ben Johnson offense. So DeAndre Swift, you can make the exact same argument for, because Ben Johnson historically puts very good offenses on the field. Travion Henderson, another guy with receiving upside. Obviously, the situation in the offense is worse, but from a player standpoint, a talent standpoint, not even close, guys. Not even close. Caleb Johnson, kind of the same thing. An Arthur Smith offense. I think there are much better, higher upside, and even potentially safer options in that range than Isaiah Pacheco. I'm not telling you not to draft him, because again, what if he turns into a walking touchdown? But to act like there's zero questions about Isaiah Pacheco this year, and he's a sure thing, I think is a little bit. I think it's a little bit much for me. And I think you need to be careful drafting Isaiah Pacheco because, again, we told you to be careful drafting Isaiah Pacheco last year. And, well, I didn't have any of them. Did you have any Pacheco last year?
0.
It's probably going to be that way this year. And, again, it's totally up to you if you draft him, but I'm giving you the red flags. I think Kansas City deploys all these backs this year, and they all get a fair amount of run, which makes them good for fantasy but very hit and miss from a weekly basis and probably hard to predict from a fantasy football perspective as well.
If the only reason I had for telling you that Quentin Johnston was not going to do anything this year was just because he sucks, I feel like half of you would be like, yeah, he does. That's fair. The other half of you will lose your mind. But with Quentin Johnston getting all the hype in training camp right now, I do think it is worth addressing because he's, having a great camp according to reports. He's, got some nice catches. He also has some classic QJ drops, getting some touchdowns, winning some contested catch situations, which honestly, like as a player for a guy that I hope is successful at the NFL level, I hope he does well. And I hope he carves some sort of role at the NFL level consistently for a long time and can be a nice difference maker. He's not scoring relevant points in fantasy this year, guys. He's not going to. And it's not just because of him, but I'll start with him. In 2023 as a rookie, that is the worst reception perception profile that I've ever seen in my entire life. First, and second percentile against man zone and press. That is... He
literally was like one of the worst rookie wide receivers of all time.
The worst wide receiver, period, in the NFL. That is abysmal. He got so much better in 2024 and jumped up to 5th percentile against man, 24th against zone, and 14th against press. That is still wide receiver. That's a bad wide receiver 3 and an average wide receiver 4. Like it schematically, when you're talking about a wide receiver on the depth chart, that's what you would maybe expect from an okay wide receiver 4. It's very, very bad. This honestly does not just apply to Quentin Johnston because of how bad he was as a true route runner. I don't even honestly, if that didn't matter, if I didn't know about it and you didn't know about it and we just brushed it on the rug and acted like it didn't exist, there is one metric and one metric alone that matters in this entire thing, and it is all because of our man Greg Roman. I had an epiphany, like a couple months ago, where I was just curious. I was just curious. I just wanted to know. I was like, hey, Kyle, one of our research guys. I said, Kyle, Can you let me know the wide receiver ones and the running back ones, or the lead running backs and wide receivers in every Greg Roman offense dating back to when he was an OC in San Fran with Jim Harbaugh? So like all the way back to 2011. Tell me who the lead wide receivers and running backs were in those respective offenses. I'm going to go through every single one of these guys, and I'm not going to imply anything. I'll just let you guys imply it for yourself. Michael Crabtree, wide receiver 28, Frank Gore, running back 17. Michael Crabtree, wide receiver 15, Frank Gore, running back 10. In 2013, Anquan Boldin, wide receiver 15, Frank Gore, running back 18. 2014, Anquan Boldin, wide receiver 18, Frank Gore, running back 21. 2015, Watkins, wide receiver 20, McCoy, running back 19. Robert Woods, wide receiver 65, McCoy, running back 4. Marquise Brown, wide receiver 46, Ingram, running back 11. Marquise Brown, wide receiver 35, Dobbins, running back 28. Marquise Brown, wide receiver 21, Freeman, running back 32. Duvernay, wide receiver 65, and is that Kenyon Drake, running back 45? Yep. And then in 2024, Ladd McConkey, wide receiver 13, and J.K. Dobbins, running back 24. We are already going out on a limb telling you guys that Ladd can be a wide receiver 1, and so can Amari and Hampton. And there is a lot of good statistical data backing up the fact that it can happen this year because, A, we are in the modern-day NFL that is not the NFL of 2011. B, Justin Herbert is a little bit better as a passer than Colin Kaepernick and just has more volume and opportunity than Lamar generally in normal years. Lamar was amazing last year as a passer. And Ladd McConkey had an amazing RP, and he was wildly efficient, and he was already a high-end wide receiver 2 last season. There's already an argument to be made that Ladd McConkey has a cap ceiling this year for this reason. There will not be a relevant wide receiver in that room outside of Ladd McConkey, and there will not be a relevant running back outside of Amari and Hampton.
This argument, by the way, and on the screen, the graphic should say this should be a Trey Harris and Quentin Johnson segment.
Did I not mention Trey Harris earlier?
No, and I put him in, like, graphically, he needs to be on the screen from the beginning. This is both of them. I mean, this is, because Trey Harris actually has a higher ADP right now. They're both going about a round apart, but Trey Harris is the guy going higher, and he's not doing anything this year either. No chance.
If you're sold on QJ, you shouldn't be. If you're sold on Trey Harris, you shouldn't be. And again, this is like, we haven't even seen any efficiency data on Trey Harris at the NFL level. He could be twice as good as QJ from a route running perspective, and you can't flex him. You will not be able to flex him, I'm telling you.
And we have to say this because every year the hype on Quentin Johnson is through the roof in training camp, and it already is this year as well. And so don't act like, oh, nobody's drafting QJ. Come on, guys. I mean, I see your posts about Quentin Johnson. Don't act like you don't say it. Let's talk about Tyrone Tracy. This one's really easy. I'll spend a minute and a half on this one. This is a classic fantasy football avoid.
Classic.
Average level running back. He is an average level running back. As somebody who's followed him since high school, because he went to school 20 minutes from here. Average NFL running back, at best, in a far below average fantasy football situation, an offensive situation. That's a reason enough to avoid him. When you're looking at the rushing offense last year for the New York Giants, 23rd in the league. The overall offense last year for the New York Giants, 29th in the league. It's a good idea just to generally avoid guys in that area, even guys that are workhorse guys getting every single valuable snap. And here's why I'm not going to spend time on this. You can sit there and tell me he's going to be the starter this year, Avery. He's going to be starting, and Scadaboo's going to be the backup. Okay,
they'll split regardless.
I think that I could make the argument, even if that's true, he's probably not a super great pick, but they're going to split. And so at the point where they're splitting, I have zero interest in the most expensive one. Zero. I will not take a completely split backfield on one of the worst offenses in the league, behind one of the worser offensive lines in the league. And yes, I said worser on purpose. Between him and Scadaboo, I'll take the cheapest one. Yep. And I will take Scadaboo. And I'm going to take Scadaboo sparingly. Why? Because Scadaboo is on a bad offense. It's just the truth. I think Scadaboo's better at price naturally because his price is lower, and I think he's going to be the starter there. But even if you don't think he's going to be the starter there, even if you think it's Tracy, even if you think Tracy did well last year, which I don't know where people get that from. I guess relative to his situation, he performed okay, but he didn't do anything worth keeping his job, which is why they drafted Cam Scadaboo. And so even if you don't think they're going to split, I think there's a good argument not to draft him. They're going to split at the very minimum. It's going to be like about 50-50. I do not want a 50% share of the Giants running back room. I have zero interest in having that on my fantasy football team. You guys can have it. If you want them, take them. I'm not drafting him this year. I will not do it. Won't do it.
Cooper Kupp's going to be our last guy here, and I will also keep this short and sweet. Cooper Kupp is just the poster child for an old guy who's regressed already and is going to continue to regress until there's a point where he's just not really a relevant receiver. And again, there is a price point with Cooper Kupp where I'm okay taking him. If you get him in the 9th round or the 8th rounds, like as your last flex spot, then sure, you can take a shot on him. I'm okay with that. Please don't reach on him in the 6th. Don't reach on him in the 7th even. Like I'm not taking him there. And look, you're going to say, why are you applying this standard to Cooper Kupp and not to JSN when you're saying Cooper Kupp's playing with Sam Darnold and he's not going to be able to produce with Sam Darnold? The reason is JSN's been playing with Geno Smith and he's going to Sam Darnold and he has a less crowded wide receiver room and he's been productive in crowded wide receiver rooms in the past. Cooper Kupp couldn't even produce with Matt Stafford last year playing as a wide receiver 2 in that offense. And now he's going from Matt Stafford to Sam Darnold. That is a significant downgrade at quarterback when you're looking at who he's been playing with to who he's going to play with. Not to mention, schematically, Cooper Kupp is going to be the exclusive slot wide receiver. You generally see that transition for wide receivers who are, across their career, have been very productive and very versatile, and then they kind of transition to this slot exclusive role. That's not necessarily bad for some guys. Like Stephon Diggs, you saw him really excel in that role before the ACL injury in Houston last season. But for a guy like Cooper Kupp, you've already got you've already got JSN that you have to contend with there. You have Sam Darnold, not CJ Stroud, right, throwing you the ball like Stephon Diggs had. And also, he's just, at this point in his career, he's not as good as Stephon Diggs was last season before the ACL went down. Like, you were seeing that regression. There is a reason that the Rams moved on from Cooper Kupp and went and signed another wide receiver who's 32 years old in Devontae Adams. They didn't want to get younger. They clearly didn't care about getting younger. They cared about getting better. And they got better with Devontae Adams because Devontae Adams hasn't lost a step yet. Cooper Kupp clearly has. And he's going to continue to. I mean, you're looking at guys that we're not even high on this year. Khalil Shakir, he was very comparable to Khalil Shakir. Khalil Shakir only had 1 point per game less than Cooper Kupp last season. Juwan Jennings beat him out in a ton of metrics. Targets per game, target share, receptions, receiving yards, and yards per route run. Juwan Jennings was better. And you're getting him in the same price range as Cooper Kupp. And Juwan Jennings has the upside and the opportunity with the Brandon Ayuk injury to be the wide receiver 1 in San Francisco's offense this season, which I would bet is going to be a better, more efficient, and more effective offense than Seattle will be this season. Even though I'm not the biggest downer on Darnold, I'm not delusional. San Fran's going to be better. So I wouldn't be betting on Cooper Kupp this season. I'd rather take a shot on a guy like Jennings instead. When you look at the range of outcomes for 30-year-old wide receivers and what they do the following season, it is ugly, ugly, ugly. Thielen, 5 point per game drop-off. Tyler Lockett, 4 point per game drop-off. And Emmanuel Sanders and AJ Green, all insane drop-offs as well. Adams is the only one that went up because he's ageless. The rest is really, really ugly.
So, again, we're not telling you, hey, don't draft these guys at all costs. Who you draft is up to you. There's a good chance a couple of these players on this list hit. By some way they will, even though we have good arguments for them not to hit, that they will. And so we're not telling you not to draft them. We're giving you the data. These are guys we are not drafting this year. Probably going to avoid. And they could be bust. They're good. They're high. There's a high likelihood that they're bust candidates. So, again, all the tools we use on the site, you can get them for free in the link in the pinned comment. You can use code DOMAIN. Just create an account, and you can use a lot of these tools to get ready for your fantasy football drafts. Also, our brand new draft strategy secret is going to be out very, very soon, so keep an eye out for that. But, again, we'll get the link down below. Make sure you drop a like and subscribe if you enjoyed the work, enjoyed the research. Even if you disagree, show a little bit of neuroplasticity here and drop a like for us, please. We appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you later.